Good afternoon. It's a very great pleasure for me as president of the university to call into session the first annual convocation of the School of Medicine, Wright State University. I take far more than the typical academic conventional pride in this occasion, and I trust because of the nature of the people who are here that we all view this more as a celebration than a convocation. The arrival of the charter class of the medical school signals one of those historic moments in the development of a university which must be relished when it occurs. Its character is unique, and its signal that the university has more to do, more to achieve, is as prominent as it signals the end of an era of development and preparation. It's been a dream, of course, of this general metropolitan area for years that a medical school be added to the galaxy of academic opportunities for the citizens of Ohio. And more than 16 years ago, leaders of this community made a formal effort to establish a medical school, and one of the principal reasons, of course, at that time for the failure of that effort was the lack of a state university in this immediate metropolitan area. So the medical school idea became part of the rationale for the emergence of Wright State University, and many community leaders henceforth have kept this torch of hope and ambition alive in this community. So all of us gathered here today can take a great deal of pride and satisfaction in this moment. Having a medical school, of course, is not waving a wand. It is not even something that a single committee can achieve. It's an enormously complex and complicated adventure, and there are people here today representing segments of the community who have been absolutely vital and important in this venture, far too numerous to recognize, except perhaps by categories. The legislative leaders who are here, the members of the medical profession itself, the hospital administrators and other health service providers of the area, political leaders for 8 or 9 counties around this spot, all have played an important part. The medical school, of course, has reached out beyond these boundaries, and one of our most significant participants and partners in this venture is the Veterans Administration, and I'm very grateful today to have with us the Assistant Medical Director for Academic Affairs of the Veterans Administration, Dr. William Mayer of Washington, D.C. If he would just stand, I'll signal him. Thank you very much. We have representatives here, of course, from other medical schools as far away as Meharry. We have trustees from adjoining universities, presidents of institutions in this neighborhood. 2 special and particularly important universities in this venture, of course, are our cooperating partners, the universities closest to us in either direction, Central State University, represented today by Dr. Pemberton. Doctor, would you rise and we'll wave? Right. Dr. Newsom, the president, is presiding over a convocation of his own on his own campus today and couldn't be here. We are lucky to have, however, the president of Miami University with us today, Dr. Phil Shriver. Dr. Shriver. As I said earlier, there is no attempt on my part to mention everyone in this audience who has had a crucial role in this whole venture. The academic administrators of Wright State and the numerous community participants are here because all of us are equally interested in the success of this venture. I do want to mention another and rarer category of person, however, and that's represented down front by a marvelous woman whose dream of medical education for this area has been alive for many, many years, nearly her whole lifetime. She's been a very modest, behind-the-scenes, but very vital and interesting person in this development, and she is, of course, one that I think you'll take special pleasure in recognizing today. Her name is Thelma Fordham Pruitt, one of our benefactors. Mrs. Pruitt. Well, my part of the program is coming to a close, and aside from my sincere personal thanks and the thanks of Wright State University to all of you for coming and for participating in this particular moment of special pleasure and importance, I do have just one or two more things to say and persons to introduce. As I said, the complexity of the medical school adventure, as we have spent 4 frenetic years in its development and in arriving at this point, have caused so many people to be involved that I'm going to mention only 2 more. One is the Executive Vice President and Chief Academic Administrator of the university. Behind me on the platform, Dr. Andrew P. Spiegel. And on the other end of the platform, the first employee of Wright State University, who had more to do with the early days of this institution than anyone else by far, and who is our Senior Vice President Emeritus and godfather to the whole enterprise, I guess, Fred Wright. Gentlemen. And now I'm going to introduce the Chief Administrator of the medical school himself, tell you just briefly about where he came from and how we found him. Many of the people in this audience today participated in the search for this man. It was a nationwide search, an excruciatingly intensified effort involving thousands of man-hours. We are still glad that we made the choice we did, and I think many of you will agree that no one you know of could have done more to bring about this moment in the way that Dr. Belgian has done. Dr. Belgian came to Dayton 27 months ago in 1974. Dr. Belgian was born in Detroit, as I was, and I think we both left as soon as we found out where we were. But Dr. Belgian, unlike me, was a Phi Beta Kappa graduate of the University of Michigan. He received his medical degree from Michigan in 1954 and served internship and residency at the University Hospital in Ann Arbor. Since that time, he has been in a variety of important positions in medicine, including a 10-year stint in the Air Force, where he served in a variety of positions and situations. And after leaving the military in 1965, Dean Belgian went to the University of California School of Medicine at Davis, where he rose to the position of Associate Dean for Medical Education. And it was in that position that we discovered him and invited him to come here. Dean Belgian is a member of 25 professional societies, has been the author of innumerable scientific articles, is listed in all the important journals and directories, serves as a trustee of a number of boards and agencies in this area, and has immersed himself in the medical service, healthcare delivery system, and medical education activities of the greater Miami Valley. I note with great pleasure that Dean Belgian is married to Bernadette Miranda, the former Bernadette Miranda, who is sitting down front. Many of Dr. Belgian's and Bernadette's relatives are with us today, and as you all proceed to the reception afterwards, we hope you can get acquainted not only with Dr. Belgian, but with his family. And now I take great pleasure in presenting to you the founding dean of the School of Medicine of Wright State University, Dr. John Belgian.
President Kagaris, distinguished guests, thank you very much. I think this is not only a joyous moment, but it is also an historic one. I think each and every one of you in the room played some kind of role in the development of this new School of Medicine, a school that does represent an effort to be different, to generate a new breed of physician, and to do it in terms of social need and social conscience. A lot of honors have been bestowed upon me in my 2 years here in Dayton, and I get credit for the work of many people. I believe that it is important for me to introduce to you today some of the other members of our team who helped bring this concept, this dream of medical education, into reality in Dayton. We have a distinguished group of people on the faculty, on the podium today, and I would just like to introduce the members of my faculty because the others will be introduced to you later. I would ask that you withhold your applause until each of them has been introduced. Starting immediately to your left is Dr. C. Alex Alexander, our Assistant Dean for Veterans Affairs, Professor of Community Medicine, and Chief of Staff at the Dayton VA Center. Next to him is Dr. Alan Asher, Professor and Chairman of the Department of Radiological Sciences. Next to him is Dr. Nancy Bigley, Professor and Chairman of the Department of Microbiology and Immunology. Next to her is Dr. Barry Blackwell, Professor and Chairman, Department of Psychiatry. Next to Dr. Blackwell, Dr. Leon Sudkowitz, Professor and Chairman, Department of Medicine. Next to Dr. Sudkowitz, Dr. Dan E. Elliott, Professor and Chairman, Department of Surgery. Next to Dr. Elliott, Dr. Ira Fritz, Professor and Chairman of the Department of Biological Chemistry. Next to Dr. Fritz is Dr. Bob Goldenberg, Acting Chairman of our Department of Otorhinolaryngology. Next is Dr. John J. Halke, Assistant Dean for Air Force Affairs, Commander of the Air Force Medical Center, Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, Clinical Professor of Obstetrics and Gynecology, and Clinical Professor of Pharmacology. Next is Dr. Ron E. Hamilton, Professor of our Department of Community Medicine. Next is Dr. Robert Jewett, my Associate Dean for Academic Affairs and Professor of Pharmacology. Next is Dr. Emmanuel Cowder, Professor and Chairman, Department of Pediatrics. Starting in the far corner on the left, Dr. Antonio Zappala, Professor and Chairman of the Department of Anatomy. Next is Dr. Nicholas J. Thompson, Professor and Chairman, Department of Obstetrics and Gynecology. Next is Dr. J. Robert Suriano, my Associate Dean for Student Affairs and Admissions, Professor of Microbiology. Next is Dr. Edward Spanier, my Associate Dean for Administration, one of the invaluable people from the Wright State campus who have helped this dream come from planning into operation. Next is Dr. Jim Sheeby, my Associate Dean for Hospital Affairs and Professor of Internal Medicine. Next is Dr. Alvin E. Roden, Professor and Chairman of our Department of Postgraduate Medicine and Continuing Education and Acting Chairman of our Department of Pathology. Next is Dr. Brian Roberts, Professor and Chairman, Department of Anesthesiology. Next is Dr. Robert Reese, Professor of our Department of Medicine in Society. Next is Dr. Douglas Longnecker, Professor and Chairman, Department of Family Practice. Next is Dr. John Lindauer, my Assistant Dean for Curriculum and Professor and Chairman of our Department of Pharmacology. Next is Dr. Bertil Larson, our Acting Chairman of our Department of Ophthalmology. Next is Dr. Samuel Coleman, Professor and Chairman of our Department of Physiology. And last but not least is Dr. Paul Kesdy, my Associate Dean for Research Development and Professor of Medicine. Lady and gentlemen, I salute you. I salute your faculty and all of those who have made this become reality. You will note that they carefully asked me to prepare some remarks which they have printed in the program. I see that as an overt attempt to muzzle the dean, and I think that is probably well taken. The focus for today is really the student, and we will have the pleasure at the end of this convocation to introduce our charter class of freshmen, the class of 1980, to you. We do, however, want to introduce briefly a few people who are on the podium, who have been very important to the development of this program, and who will share with you and us the joy of this occasion. The first one of these is Dr. John Worthman. One of the fringe benefits of my position is the opportunity to work with the practicing community and dedicated professionals like Dr. John Worthman. Dr. Worthman, a 1950 graduate of the Ohio State University College of Medicine, served on the search committee that selected the founding dean. So if you have any gripes, take them to him. In the early 1970s, he directed one of the 22 pilot programs in family practice throughout the nation. Those programs led to, throughout nationwide, family practice residency programs. Since our school was created to educate primary care physicians and family practice physicians as one of those groups delivering primary care, we considered our good fortune to have one of the nation's finest examples of primary care medicine as a member of our voluntary clinical faculty. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to introduce to you the President of the Montgomery County Medical Society, Dr. John Worthman.
Thank you, Dean Belgian, and thank you all. I do speak specifically for the Montgomery County Medical Society, but I think in a very real way I speak for all the physicians in this area who are concerned with what happens here. We've been planning and hoping for a medical school here for a long time, and if I'm going to speak for these doctors, I'm going to say at last. I think we've got it. This hope that we had became a reality when the legislature, the state of Ohio, approved this venture. And then under the direction of Dean Belgian, we began to give rather copious measures of our time and talents to help prepare the organization of this medical school. I think Dean Belgian fired us with enthusiasm and drive, and sometimes he pressured us. But the reality is now. It's in the first stages now with this convocation. And to the incoming students, the doctors in this community are proud of the total accomplishment and welcome you to the challenge and to the delight of medicine.
Thank you, Dr. Worthman. Mr. Harry Jeffrey, our next guest speaker, has had a long and distinguished career as a practicing attorney, as an elected government official, and as an educational and civic leader. Mr. Jeffrey is a native Daytonian. He received his Juris Doctorate from the Ohio State College of Law in 1926 and has practiced law for 40 years. He has served as Special Assistant Attorney General of Ohio and was a member of the United States Congress in 1943 to 1944, representing the 3rd Ohio District. In 1965, Mr. Jeffrey was appointed to the advisory committee of what was, at that time, the Wright State campus of Miami and Ohio State universities. When the Wright State campus became Wright State University in 1967, he was appointed to the Board of Trustees for a term of 1 year. When his 1-year term expired in 1968, he was reappointed to a 9-year term on the board. It is my great honor to introduce Dayton's own Harry P. Jeffrey.
Dean Belgian, distinguished guests, faculty members of Wright State University College of Medicine, and perhaps most importantly of all, the members of our first class of that School of Medicine, and ladies and gentlemen, representing the Board of Trustees of Wright State University, it is a great privilege and a pleasure to participate in this first convocation of the Wright State University School of Medicine. As one who has had a peripheral connection with this university from the beginning, it never ceases to amaze me as you come out here and see what exists today, because just a dozen years ago, this was farmland. And now we have not only a great complex of buildings and a fine university, but now we have a school of medicine. I think it is fair to say that this school of medicine is unique in several respects. I think it must be emphasized, as other speakers already have, that this is a community project and has been from the beginning. And without the support of many of you in this audience today, neither this university nor this School of Medicine could exist. It has been a community project from the very beginning, beginning with the obtaining the land and then the great expansion that has taken place. It is unique in another respect, I think, because as we understand it, one of the principal goals of this University School of Medicine is to be a community school in the sense that it will serve the greater community, and not only the cities and the urban areas, but the rural districts and the suburbs as well. We understand that the great need is not only for additional physicians, but a proper geographical distribution of those who have been educated in this great profession. And finally, I think one of the principal goals, as we understand it, is that this school will emphasize the training for family care, for primary care of physicians. It is noteworthy as we look at our programs today that most of these fine students come from the state of Ohio and from our area. And experience has demonstrated, we are told, that usually these physicians serve in that area where they have had their origin. And so we hope that this school, and we believe that this school will serve the dual function of the community and of the need for the family type of practice which is so great in the profession today. I congratulate again the members of this class. We look forward to you and hopefully for the challenge that confronts you and the opportunity for service that it affords you.
I could talk for several hours, perhaps even longer if you'd let me, about the man who flew in from the West Coast to deliver our keynote address. He is Charles John Tupper, my colleague for 10 years at the University of California School of Medicine, Davis campus. Dr. Tupper was born in Arizona, attended high school and college in California, and received his medical degree from the University of Nebraska School of Medicine in 1948. That same year, in 1948, he went to Ann Arbor, Michigan, and spent the next 4 years as an intern, resident, and research assistant at the University Hospital. This is where our paths first crossed. Following those 4 years at Ann Arbor, Dr. Tupper received his commission in the U.S. Air Force Medical Corps, and after serving in the northern wastelands, returned to Ann Arbor in 1954 to teach in the Department of Internal Medicine. He had a long and distinguished career at the University of Michigan, and by 1966 had risen to the position of Associate Dean at the University of Michigan School of Medicine. That was an unfortunate year for Michigan because the University of California at Davis was searching for a man to build its new School of Medicine. John Tupper was selected for that difficult job, and in 1966, he and his lovely wife, Mary, and their 2 children moved to California. As the founding dean of the School of Medicine at UC Davis, John Tupper is keenly aware of both the agony and the ecstasy that accompany the growth and development of a new medical educational program. It is with the utmost pleasure that I welcome a warm and dear friend and a respected professional colleague to Dayton and to the Wright State University School of Medicine and its many friends. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Dr. C. John Tupper.
President Kagaris, Dean Belgian, honored guests, students, and friends. It is indeed a pleasure and a genuine privilege to be with you this afternoon and to have the opportunity to participate in this very important event, the first annual convocation of the Wright State University School of Medicine. And perhaps the most important people here today are the students that we welcome and so honor. For as we think about it, they will be the physicians of maturity and the source of leadership as we enter the year 2000. Yes, each of them will be at that time from 13 to 15 years out of their formal training, and thus approaching the most fruitful and productive and useful portions of their careers. But as you might guess, I cannot be with you here today without reminiscing to some extent, because it was 11 years ago, almost to this very day, that I first visited the University of California's Davis campus as a candidate for the deanship of a proposed new School of Medicine on that campus. And it was 10 years ago, in July of 1966, that Dr. John Belgian joined me as the second member of the faculty of that new medical school.